We are live. We are live. Welcome to College Football's Peek Around the Corner with your host, Greg Flugar. We cover everything in college football because we love everything in college football. And if you do as well, please subscribe to our channel. Why not? Why not? Hit the subscribe button. Open up your notifications. Smash the like button if you liked our content tonight. If you like our content, if you enjoy it, smash that like button. Share the video with your family and your friends. Welcome into the studio that sits on the corner of Keith Jackson Parkway and Kurt Gowdy Avenue. Do not be afraid. Do not be afraid to be a legend. PATC community, do not be afraid. Not tonight. To be a legend in the chat room with the comments and with your phone calls later in the show. This is going to be, I think, a very short monologue. I don't know. Every time I say that, it becomes a long monologue. So maybe I shouldn't say that. Today, this show, we're going to do PATC's top 5 G5 schools. We're going to be ranking the top 5. This is important. Hey, the top G5 conference champion is going to the playoffs. Is going to the playoffs for the first time. Well, we did have Cincinnati, the Bearcats, G5 school go to the playoffs. But at the beginning of the year, we know a G5 school is going into the playoffs. More interest, more exposure. And it starts tonight here at PATC, a peek around the corner, taking a look. Who is your top 5 G5? What is your top G5 school? What school are you predicting is going to be the top-ranked conference champion of the G5 conferences that is going to the playoffs? So we're going to start there. And then we're going to go quickly through Saturday traditions. They just put out a piece, their top quarterback rankings for the Big Ten. Now, we did that here at Peek Around the Corner a few months ago. But my goodness, the quarterback situation has changed for many schools in the Big Ten. It's already changed over the last 3 months. Some and the quarterbacks that were on the list, some of them have gone up in the rankings, and some of them have dropped. Very interesting. This is Saturday's tradition rankings. So we're going to go through that. And then we're going to do an update in the Holy Smokes Theater ACC drama. This is where I'm going to get in trouble. Not by the people that I talk with, because I don't unload unless I do not burn bridges. I make sure I can harvest the field over and over and over again. We just broke on April 15th in our members episode, Cloak and Dagger, Peek Around the Corner. If you're not a member, become a member. On April 15th, we said within 6 weeks it was going to be Missouri State was one of the 2 candidates that was going to become a Conference USA member, and it happened. And we were able to get that information, delivered it to you, because we are able to harvest the field over and over and over again. I make sure of that. That was a story that we had, and we wouldn't have had it if we did not treat the people that we talked to with respect, trading bones. So sometimes you all are upset with me because I tease, or maybe I don't quite give all the information because I can't, but that's why we do it in the Holy Smokes Theater. And if you're a long-time PATC member, you understand the lingo. You can understand. For the people who are new to the show, you will get there. You will get there. This is where we describe Cloak and Dagger information in the theater, covering the drama of college football in a way that I don't burn bridges, and I give you the hint, hint, wink, wink, nod, nod, and you understand. My monologue on the update on the Holy Smokes Theater is not going to last very long. Basically, it's only going to last minutes. But I'm going to get in trouble with some of you. Because you're just going to say, you know what? I'm not going to say what you're going to say. I'll let you just say what you're going to say. In the Holy Smokes Theater, remember we got a reporter now in the Holy Smokes Theater who tells us how long the popcorn line is. He's giving us a little bit of gossip here and there. The reporter's name is Jerry. Remember we decided on that? After my dear beloved father who just passed away, Jerry. Jerry Flugar, where reporter Jerry can report to us that he saw some hand signals being done at the stage of the Holy Smokes Theater. Hand signals from one party to the next, and then another party to another party. What does that all mean? Well, we're going to get to it. And we're not going to be able to say much on it, but I'm going to tell you something. Amelia Island, Florida, is the spring meeting. I believe it officially starts tomorrow, or maybe it starts Monday. I don't, is it Sunday, Monday, Tuesday? Whatever. We are going to be who knows what's going to happen. But I can tell you what we're going to be watching for, and I can tell you what maybe some other people in the industry are going to be watching for. And it has to do with the hand signals. We've alluded to this before. There's some tag team going on. Some tag teaming going on in this Cloak and Dagger. Because there is Cloak and Dagger. You guys know that, right? We're not able to uncloak everything. We're barely unable to cloak anything. But we do got some stuff. Remember when we talked about the hot bubble of action between April 28th and May 17th? In the Big 12 drama in the Holy Smokes Theater, I knew that there was a May 7th meeting with Colorado and the Big 12 in the city of Chicago. But I couldn't tell you about the meeting. I couldn't burn my sources, so we called it a hot bubble of action. And then on May 8th, the day after, that Monday, we did a live show. You can go back and watch it. May 8th, we came on here and said it happened. The hot bubble of action happened. We still couldn't tell you it was a meeting. And then I told you the Pac-12 was hanging by a thread because the meeting actually took place between Colorado and the Big 12. It lasted 90 minutes. We could tell you the room number. We could tell you why it did not happen a week before. Because there was a wedding, an important wedding for one of the participants of that meeting. It couldn't happen the week after May 7th because somebody was graduating from college, from Indiana University, a daughter of one of the participants of that Colorado Big 12 meeting. So, but we couldn't give you the particulars at the time, but we could give you, it was a hot bubble of action, and we knew that meeting did take place, and because it took place, that means Colorado was very serious. And then on May 24th, May 31st, they met with donors in Newport, California, and then in Boulder, California, and on and on and on until July 27th. So there are things that we can't really open up yet on. So I'm going to describe it as there's some hand signals. There is some communication going on. And I'm going to tell you between what schools. You probably can already predict it. But we are going to keep close eyes on what is publicly said, if anything, in the next 3 days coming out of Amelia Island, Florida. We're going to be tracking it. What's said in public and what is said in private. So we're going to get to that story as well. So we got kind of a fun, easy going, not too stressful Saturday night is all right for PATC. No, not the middle finger. Not the middle finger. Let me get to everybody here. First of all, thank you, Sean, for becoming an early Peak Cloak and Dagger member. Holy smokes, right out of the gate. Thank you, Sean. You are officially hereby knighted Cloak and Dagger. Congratulations, Sean, and thank you for your generosity. You can go watch our members-only episodes. And Ryan Willie, the Evil Badger. The G5 team will get crushed in the CFP. Maybe they will. Maybe they will. Maybe they will. I understand all this talk about the G5 getting their own playoffs. Maybe they will. Maybe there'll be a split. But I got to tell you, now listen to me, because I know everybody disagrees with me. Everybody disagrees with me, but just listen to me for a second. If, and it's a big if, but if the roster sizes if the football roster sizes are limited between 85 to 95 players, 85 scholarships with only 10 walk-ons or no walk-ons, and you just have a roster of 85, then the talent, the players, it can't get the gap can't grow any bigger. There's only so many players out there. There's only so many players that are going to be in Alabama, Georgia, Ohio State, Michigan, the big schools. Like, the distribution of the players can't really... It's actually getting a little bit more spread out in the SEC and the Big Ten, the top layer programs. And then there are a few five-star players that are trickling down to the mid-tier teams. See, I don't think the ability of, let's just say Tulane. I don't think the ability of Tulane to get good players in this new world is actually going to drop. Right? They're not going to have the budget like the power conferences, but they don't get those type of players anyways right now. See, how much gap of talent can there possibly be? There's only so many players, and there's only so many roster spots in the power conferences. Do you understand what I'm saying? Or am I crazy? Yes, there's going to be gaps in being able to hire coaches and development, and I get all that. But at some point, it's diminishing returns. At some point, it's diminishing returns. Don't get me wrong. You'd rather have the boatload of money than not. And we're going to see a difference now. Right? The advantages of the schools that have more money, I get all that. But when you're a G5 program, you're already at an incredible disadvantage. How much more disadvantage can you possibly get? We saw Tulane beat USC 2 years ago. The top G5 team beat a USC program. The G5 team will probably get crushed. Probably. But maybe not. Maybe not. And I know I'm a little nuts. I get it. Ryan Willie, thank you for the super chat. Thank you, Eva Badger, for your generosity. Let's get to it. Kerry Goldnose is in the house. Thomas is here. T-Duck, GT, Nick Boardman, Clemson Tiger, DP, Caleb Ramirez, Sheep and Wolf Clothing. Jen Bagley is in the house. Stephen McNeely is in the house. The Georgia Bulldog, Don Scruggs is here. Skaven, yes, yes. Hello, Mad Gopher. Hello, Mad. Yes, yes. Mr. Terrapin, JD Turtle. Daniel's in the house. Mr. Cyclone, Matt Neeson. Randy Taylor. Again, the Evil Badger. PA Knoll fan, Pennsylvania Knoll fan is here. KS Bear fan is here. Two King Slots is in the house. Jeremy Nork is coming in hot. I came in hot last live program. This is your turn, Jeremy Nork, to come in hot. Okay, I've lost my way. Nathan is in the house. Don in Kansas. Minnesota Seminole. Hello, everybody. Joe Z, Rain Russell, Marcus Williams, Movie Time Blues. Rumor is North Carolina changing their mind. I don't know what that means. Changing their mind on what? Let me know, Movie Time Blues. Ray is in the house. Expedition Greg, AMAC, RFR Mac, Thunderlips is here. Rock and Rant, Mr. Hurricane. There's no such thing as short. Tim Bayless is in the house. Morris Simmons, Justin Lucas. Hey, Greg, ACC PM and all ACC will be live on ACC Network from Amelia. Now, I've got ACC Network program, of course, in the studio. We did the North Carolina State Wolfpack watch party, spring football game watch party. And by the way, I'm still in love with the North Carolina State Wolfpack team for 2024. I'm falling in love with the Miami Hurricanes, and I'm already in love with the Florida State Seminoles. I've got some hard decisions to make down the road. When does that start, Justin? When does that start? Give me a time. I will keep an eye on it. If there's any news, if there's any drama, I'm going live. I'm going to tell you what we're going to be looking out for. I'm going to get in trouble with a segment of the PATC community. So it is what it is. Richard Jones is in the house. John Dry is in the house. Lee is here. Sean says Boise State. Well, they got the great running back. Do I have Boise State number one? You're just going to have to find out. Appalachian, do I have them number one? You're going to have to find out. Carl Jacobs is in the house. He's got Air Force, Mountain West. Interesting. Okay, who else is here? Miles of Fun is in the house. I love movie theaters. Feel bad for them these days. Absolutely correct on that. Thomas is here. Say it ain't so, Weezer. It starts Monday. Okay. So I keep my okay. It starts Monday. That makes sense. But I do think there are people arriving tomorrow. Remember, you know what? We'll save that until we get to that part of the monologue. Not the middle finger signals. Nope. Anthony Carlson, who got the hot take? Boy, that's an interesting question. It's not so much who got the hot take. It's who... I'm going to get in trouble, but who is... Who is playing the heel in it? Who is playing the heel in a certain tag team? And I better not describe it any worse than that. It's not bad, it's not good, it's just, we'll get to it, Anthony Carlson. That's a very good question. Tumasta is in the house. Cowboy Bob is in the house. Peter Shields is here. Me versus Echo Chamber. What's up, guys? B is in the house. UNLV is looking very nice. Yeah, you know, they lost that quarterback, Maeva. He went to USC. I couldn't put him in the top 5. I could not put UNLV in the top 5. I might be regretting that. But again, this is May. I got time to change my mind. Eric Phipps is in the house. AAR is in the house. 10-win UNLV. Yep, and I don't have them in the top 5. I don't have them in the top 5. Mr. Hot Guy is in the house. Rob Ellen is in the house. Okay, let's get to it. You know what? Let's get to my PATC top 5. Let's get to it, shall we? See, I gotta make sure I work this correctly here. You guys know I'm not the brightest bulb in the fridge, but I know where every refrigerator is in every place that I walk into. G5 top 5 PATC Chalk Talk. Here we go. Buckle up. Again, more than any other year in your lifetime in the PATC community, you're going to be following, you're going to be talking about the G5 conferences, the G5 schools, the race to the conference championship, and who is the top G5 seed. And then we'll see how this year plays out. We'll see how much attention the G5 schools get. We'll see how they do when they compete in the playoff, whatever that team that is. And then we'll talk about the G5 future. When it comes to should they separate, should they stay, would they get more money in the playoffs if they separated? But let's follow, see what happens in 2024. My honorable mention, the teams that did not get into my G5 top 5 here in the spring. Appalachian State, don't have them in my top 5. Are they a threat? Absolutely, in the Sun Belt. Absolutely they are. UTSA lost their longtime quarterback, Harris. He's gone. I don't think they're going to be able to make that move to the top. And I believe that AAC is going to be the best G5 conference, obviously, and I think it's going to be having the tightest race. Miami, Ohio, going to be good. Going to be good in the MAC. There's going to be another good team in the MAC that's going to be listed as an honorable mention. I can't quite have them in the top 5. Toledo, there it is. There's the other MAC school. They lose their quarterback. Their great coach is coming back. And then Fresno State, they're stacked. They're stacked, but I couldn't quite have them in the G5 top 5. So, who do I got? Who does the PATC top 5 G5 USF? Wow. Is that a shocker? Maybe for some. Maybe for some. They were 7-6 last year. They were 1-11 in 2022. Now, when they went 1-11 in 2022, they hired Alex Golish. His first year as a head coach anywhere. USF outperformed what they were supposed to do. Las Vegas win totals. They went 7-6. A very successful year for the Bulls. Byron Brown is returning, quarterback. That 1,000-yard receiver, Sean Atkins, is returning. Running back Naquan Wright is returning. They got everything returning. USF. Again, that AAC race, it's going to be, and it might be too crowded at the top. The conference champion might have 2 losses that might knock them out of potentially going into the playoffs. Number 4, in my PATC top 5, G5, I've got Tulane, even though they lost so much last year. They lost so much from last year. But their defense is going to be real good. All projections, they were able to keep their top defensive players, their return and dual linebackers, new head coach John Summerall. They lost head coach Willie Frisk. They lost the great quarterback Michael Pratt. But look at here. The transfer quarterback from Oregon, Ty Thompson. If you go read what they're saying about Ty Thompson, there is a high level of confidence at Tulane that the quarterback room, even though Michael Pratt did incredible things the last couple of years, might even reach a higher level. Tulane, along with their defense, you cannot count them out. They're not the top AAC school. They're not the top G5 school going into this year. But I could not put them out of the top 5. Number 3, Boise State. Boise State. I am hearing a lot of boos from the PATC chat room. A lot of people are booing me right now because I don't have them as number 1. The head coach, Spencer Danielson. Boise State's year last year was going pear-shaped. It wasn't going good. And then they hired interim head coach Spencer Danielson, and everything turned around. Boise State won the Mountain West out of nowhere. Holy smokes. But they're going with the quarterback, Malachi Nelson, former 5-star, transfer out of USC. I don't know. It's a big question mark. It's too big a question mark. I couldn't have them number 1. Ashton, the great running back, 1,300 yards, 6.1 average, 19 total touchdowns. He stayed at Boise State. But one of the best running backs in the country. He was getting offers from everybody. Spencer Danielson came out and talked about it. But Malachi Nelson, man, he hasn't even played. And the quarterbacks. Look, I got Tulane 4 because Ty Thompson, there's a lot of promise. There's a lot of promise. But it's only promise. So I could not have Boise. I got him number 3. Am I going to regret that? Are we going to see Boise State go against Notre Dame? 5 seed versus 12 seed Boise State. Boise State takes a trip to South Bend. First round of the playoffs. Could be the very first game. Could be. And I'm going to be regretting this. But I got Boise State number 3. Number 2, Memphis. They don't have an inexperienced quarterback. They've got a known quarterback. They've got a great quarterback. And he's coming on. Seth Hennigan. 68% completion percentage. 32 passing TDs. This is going to be a 4th-year starter. So, I'm sorry. I don't know how I could not. Memphis was good last year, guys. Memphis was very good last year. 10-3 last year. Ryan Silverfield. You want to talk about stability. You want to talk about patience. In 2020 was his first year head coach in Memphis. 8-3. They took a step back in 2021. They go 6-6. In 2022, they go 7-6. Last year, they go 10-3. This year, they're going to win the AAC. That's what I got them down as. The Memphis Tigers. Number 2. But number 1, once again, Liberty. The Liberty Flames. They got a few things going for them that Caden Salter, of course, the great quarterback of last year. You remember at the end, after the season, Caden Salter actually went into the transfer portal. Or he threatened to go. I don't remember if he officially got in there. But I think Liberty somehow, some way, of course, they got a lot of money. I think they paid Mr. Salter. He's coming back. 2,800 yards, passing yards. 32 touchdowns, only 6 interceptions. A 176.6 quarterback rating. He also ran for 1,089 yards. He also ran for 12 touchdowns. And they got the head coach, Jamie Chadwell. And they've also got another thing, ladies and gentlemen. They've got a schedule. And I think in some ways, their schedule is going to be easier this year than last year. I think New Mexico State, no question about it, going to take about 4 steps back. Jacksonville State they were an old team last year. They lost a ton of guys. Liberty looks like they're going to, I think if you go through the schedule, I think if Bill Conley and ESPN Plus did analyze the schedule, they're probably projected to go 13-0. Will they go 13-0? They're going to have to go 13-0 if they want to be the top-rated G5 champion. If they lose one game, I don't think the top-rated G5 school is coming out of Conference USA. But for right now, I've got to have Liberty number 1. Caden Salter, unbelievable. Jamie Chadwell. There it is. There is PATC's top 5 G5. Let me know how wrong I got it once again. Greg, with all due respect, Conference USA is a glorified FCF conference. Dan Meter, good, pretty good top 5, Greg. Got to start somewhere. Not this year, Greg. RFR is disagreeing with me. You'll regret this pick, Greg, if Boise State doesn't lose in the first weeks because they're going to get stronger as the season goes on. Calling it now. Sean might be right. Sean might be right. By the way, it's pronounced Boise, not Boise. Okay, here we go. Let's get into... want to go through this article first before we get to the Holy Smokes Theater. Now, of course, I've already lost it. Hold on. Derek Peterson, this came out this evening. Saturday's Tradition. quarterback rankings for the Big Ten Conference. Now, we've been doing quarterback rankings through all the power conferences. We did it all during this winter, early spring. But, things have already changed, right? There's some new quarterbacks that have already slid into the starting jobs in all these conferences, and that includes the Big Ten. So let's see what Saturday's tradition says, the rankings in the quarterbacks in the Big Ten. Number 18, M.J. Morris, Billy Edwards, Maryland. One thing I like, Edwards was the Music City Bowl MVP last season. Morris has significantly more experience as a passer. But Edwards has been there longer, has more experience in Mike Locksley's system. Exiting the spring, this competition is very much open. Now, the Terrapins in the PATC community have been saying they believe it's M.J. Morris, that he's going to get the job, and that Billy Edwards Jr. will be the red zone quarterback. That's probably what's going to happen. I agree with that. But it's ranked 18th, and I think some of it has to do with you don't really know who's going to be the starting quarterback. So, for right now, quarterback rankings, Maryland 18th. Mike Wright. Holy smokes. Mike Wright has been a Northwestern Wildcat for how many days? 2? 3? One thing I like, Wright stabilizes a room that was quickly thrust into chaos. When Brendan Sullivan, a quarterback I like, the presumed starter, hit the portal, one of the biggest shocks for me in this spring transfer portal, when Brendan Sullivan went in the portal, I was shocked. And he went to Iowa, and I think Iowa got themselves a really good backup quarterback, potential starter, if Cade McNamara's injury, if he can't rebound from it. Wright brings 14 career starts, 38 appearances in Northwestern. He played at Vanderbilt and then Mississippi State. So he's got some experience. Mike Wright, Northwestern, number 17. The Greek Rifle. 8th, Kaliakmanis, Rutgers. He beat out Gavin Wimsatt. Wimsatt has started 18 games over the previous 2 years. But, his passing did not really develop. Wimsatt did not really develop at Rutgers. And guess what? 8th, Kaliakmanis did not really develop at Minnesota. So we'll find out if it was Minnesota's issue, if they just couldn't unlock the key to the Greek Rifle, if they couldn't clean the barrel of his gun. Maybe I shouldn't have said that. You know what I mean. Kaliakmanis throwing for 2,700 yards, 17 touchdowns, and he's got a history with the offensive coordinator, Kirk Shiraka, who recruited 8th Kaliakmanis. Kaliakmanis, rated number 16. Luke Altmaier, Illinois. One thing I like, he grew in his first year of starting quarterback last fall. He did get better. He got better as the year went on. Altmaier had a 4-interception game, but he also showed flashes of some dynamic playmaking ability. Number 15, Illinois, Luke Altmaier. Number 14, Cade McNamara. Now, obviously, Cade McNamara is not the 14th. This has to do with injury. Can he get back from injury? He's in his 6th season of college ball with 21 career starts. He started the first 5 games at Iowa. New offensive coordinator. I think Cade McNamara should have been ranked higher than 14. No question about it. This is Saturday's tradition, but I think a lot of it has to do with trying to get back from an injury. Number 13, Michigan. Holy smokes. Alex Orji, Jaden Davis. One thing I like, Orji has a high ceiling as a running threat. Davis was the 9th ranked quarterback in the 2024 class. Whichever way Michigan leans at quarterback, there's a dynamic potential. Neither is proven, however. Orji has thrown one career pass attempt in his first 2 years on campus, and Davis is obviously a true freshman. So I get it from that point. Neither these guys are nowhere near proven. And Orji makes me a little nervous, to be honest. If he's a starting quarterback at Michigan, and I think he will be, I think the Wolverines, he's a playmaker. I don't know. He makes me a little bit nervous. 13, though, I would have it ranked a little bit higher than 13. I would have Cade McNamara and Alex Orji ranked higher than 14 and 13. Hudson Card threw for 2,300 yards last year, 15 touchdowns. Purdue has to replace its top 3 receivers from last year's squad. That hurts. That hurts. Now, Purdue has got the biggest offensive line they've ever had there. They are changing it up at Purdue. Hudson Card has put on weight. He's put on about 15 pounds of muscle, according to reports out of West Lafayette. Number 11, Ethan Garbers, UCLA. One thing I like, despite signing the 5-star freshman Dante Moore, Garbers emerged from the fall with the starting job for UCLA last season. He'd go on to lose that job, then he reemerged from the bench when Moore struggled. Very interesting. He is the guy at UCLA. Going to be very interesting first year in the Big Ten for the UCLA Bruins. Number 10, the quarterback that I like out of the MAC Conference, Curtis Rourke. He was the MAC Offensive Player of the Year and first-team All-Conference pick as a junior. But then he got injured. He got a bad knee injury at the end of his junior year. Now, last year, his production took a big hit. He was trying to recover from that knee injury. Now, he got hurt late in the year. Cade McNamara got hurt early in the year. So, Cade McNamara might be ready to go. Curtis Rourke is ready to go for the Indiana Hoosiers. Number 9, Max Brosmere, Minnesota Golden Gophers. We've seen FCS quarterbacks jump to the FBS level in recent years and look smooth in doing so. I like the tools Brosmere has, and he comes to Minnesota with monster numbers. We'll see. He's got all the leadership intangibles. In fact, he's in, where is he right now? I think he's in Georgia. He's in Georgia for the whole next week with all the receivers. They're practicing every single day next week in Florida. He's got his own little camp going. Dylan Raiola, number 8. Ooh. Raiola doesn't seem to be fazed by the pressure. He's a legacy player, 5-star recruit, flipped from Georgia to Nebraska. Nebraska's going to get out of their lengthy bowl drought. This year, I've said it, Nebraska's going 8-4. Not 9-3, not 7-5. Nebraska's going 8-4. Book it. Book it from Greg the Heater this year. Greg the Heater, Nebraska's going 8-4. They're breaking that drought because of Dylan Raiola. The offensive line, you got to keep him healthy. Number 7, Aiden Childs, Michigan State. Coming along with Jonathan Smith from Oregon State. Man, this is going to be fun to watch. It's going to be fun to watch to see what Childs and Jonathan Smith do the first year in East Lansing. Number 6, Drew Aller. He was not explosive, but he was plenty effective last season. Completed 65% of his passes. We'll see what happens. Tyler Van Dyke, number 5. No. Evil Badger Ryan Willie. Evil Badger Jeff Olson, if you're watching, this is way too high. Way too high for Tyler Van Dyke. Come on, man. Come on. As a redshirt freshman, he threw for 2,900 yards, 25 touchdowns. But I don't know. This guy will throw the interception. He'll overthrow a guy. He's going to overthrow Madison. He's going to overthrow. He's going to be throwing in interceptions, INT, pick six. We'll find out. We'll find out. Miller Moss, number 4. Wow. Holiday Bowl against Louisville. Moss went 23 of 33, 372 yards, 6 touchdowns, 42-28 victory. Miller Moss, USC, first year, the Trojans going in to the Big Ten. It's going to be fun. It's going to be a lot of fun. Number 3, Will Rogers from Washington. I agree with this. I like Will Rogers. Now, they lost a whole bunch of wide receivers, but he's a good quarterback. He's a good quarterback. He has thrown for 8,700 yards, 71 touchdowns, a completion percentage of 71.1. I know that was under the air raid of Mike Leach, but this guy, this is a good bridge quarterback for Washington to go into the future in 2025. Will Rogers will be the quarterback for 1 year. Number 2, Will Howard. One thing I like, Howard comes to the Buckeyes after 27 starts in 4 years at Kansas State. 6'5", 921 rushing yards, 5,700 yards passing. A mobile quarterback, big quarterback. He's got Trevion Henderson, Quinshon Judkins behind him, Ubuka, wide receiver Jeremiah Smith, the true freshman wide receiver, Will Howard, number 2, and the number 1 quarterback in the Big Ten for the Oregon Ducks, Dillon Gabriel. Dillon Gabriel. One thing I like, there wasn't a better quarterback available to step in and carry on after Bo Nix. That's true. Dillon Gabriel is the perfect guy for the Oregon Ducks offense. He is head and shoulders above the rest of the quarterbacks in the Big Ten and should have the Oregon Ducks in a position to compete for the title. This is exciting times for the Oregon Ducks. Let me know what you agree or disagree with when it comes to Saturday Tradition, top 18 quarterbacks. Holy smokes. Raiola is overrated, not being biased at all. Mr. George, you don't have to worry, Georgia. You don't have to worry. But we do. In the Big Ten, we have to worry. Miller time, Moss. Lee disagrees with the Gabriel pick being number 1. Immaculate, all these expectations on Raiola. He's going to push it and probably become an interception machine. Am I putting too much pressure on Raiola? Is PATC expectations way too high for Dylan Raiola? If Dylan Raiola struggles, am I going to get the blame? Is PATC going to get the blame? Some people may accuse me of setting him up for failure. But I'm not that type of guy. I am not that type of guy. Mr. Hot Guy, I ain't worried Castro is going to steal Rayola's lunch money. Minnesota doesn't... Gophers don't play Nebraska this year. Minnesota has defeated Nebraska 5 straight years, and we don't get to play them this year. So, we don't get to see Dylan Raiola unless Minnesota plays Nebraska in the Big Ten championship game. What do you think about that? Okay. Okay, so update on the Holy Smokes Theater. And then we're going to get to your phone calls. You can talk about anything college football. The G5, top 5, what you agree, what you don't agree with. Who would you have as the number 1 G5 schools? We had to put Liberty there. We had to put Liberty Flames. You can talk about quarterback ratings in the Big Ten or any other quarterback ratings of any conference you want to talk about. Or you can give me a call and talk about what you think is going to happen at Amelia Island in Florida, spring meeting. I'm going to give you an update. And I want to, first of all, for those who may not believe, let's go back. Let's go back in time. Last year, we all wake up. Amelia Island, Florida, ACC spring meetings have started. It was an innocent time, right? It was an innocent time. Suddenly, out of nowhere, Ross Dellinger reports there were 7 schools meeting in private about the potential of exiting the conference, about if they could challenge the Gore. They were meeting in subgroups, really not one big group, but subgroups, 7 schools. And there's hard feelings going on, and that news just broke out of nowhere. And then Brett McMurphy follows that. About 20 minutes later, 10 minutes later, he goes, the Magnificent Seven. He coined the phrase, the Magnificent Seven, and he listed the schools. Now, a couple minutes before Brett McMurphy announced the 7 schools, I listed the 7 schools on my X account, but not because I had any inside information. We did not, for sure. I just guessed because based on the politics of it, right? States, public schools from a particular state would all have to be in these meetings. Brett McMurphy, Magnificent Seven. It was North Carolina State, Virginia Tech, Miami, Florida State, and Clemson. And then there was reports about how the athletic directors, that first meeting in Amelia Island, the athletic directors came out of that room and they didn't say anything. One person, their fist was clenched, or he was holding a piece of paper. Whatever. And then the next day they came out and they sort of locked arms and they sort of sing Kumbaya together, but not really. There was hard feelings going on. So what's going to happen Monday and Tuesday of this week? I don't know. No idea. Maybe nothing dramatic happens. But my goodness. Look what's going on. 2 schools in the conference have been sued by the conference. I mean, I know we're in the deep weeds on this. Every single day we're in the deep weeds on this. So we kind of lose ourselves. But think about it. 2 schools have been sued by the conference, the ACC. And those schools have sued the ACC. There have been schools that have voted to give Jim Phillips authorization to sue. It definitely happened with Clemson. And it kind of happened with the amended complaint, not the first time around, but the second time around, January 12th in Mecklenburg County against Florida State. Some people are getting notified to go to these meetings to vote on to be sued. Some aren't. Some are not showing up, possibly in North Carolina. Oh, there's got to be hard feelings. Of course there's hard feelings. Is Clemson and Florida State going to be invited to all the meetings? Is one of them or both of them going to get kicked out? Probably not. Is one or both of them going to walk out? Are they going to get invited to every single meeting? Push all that aside. Let me ask you. Usually, always, the athletic directors, they come out and they get asked questions from the reporters. Now, they didn't answer many questions last year after the first day. Are they going to answer the questions this time? What are they going to say? The reporters are going to be there. Of course they're going to be there. They were there last year. And there's more drama this year because we know everything that's been happening. We don't know everything that's been happening, but 2 schools have been sued by the ACC. This is what I'm looking for. Let me first give you the update. And then that ties into what we're looking for at Peek Around the Corner. And we're not the only ones. But we said first of all, thank you, Kerry Goldenose, for your super chat. Everyone, it's free to click the button, the like button. It is very much so. Thank you, Kerry Goldenose, for your generosity. You're helping us keep the lights on here. I do appreciate your generosity, your friendship. Thank you so much, Kerry Goldenose. Ryan, Willie, Greg, TVD will surprise you. He will be the next great Wisconsin quarterback. Come on, man. Come on, Ryan. You might be right. But just go watch that game against Middle Tennessee. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. Well, we're going to find out. We're going to find out real quick. Evil Badger, Ryan Willie, thank you so much for your incredible generosity to this channel. Thank you so very much. We've talked a lot of football today, tonight. But let's talk Holy Smokes Theater. Remember when we reported to you months ago here at Peek Around the Corner? And a lot of people are saying, and it was true up to a point, but Florida State and Clemson, they were together, they're communicating. One filed, the other one thought the other one was going to file. They kind of knew what each other were going to say, and And then we reported here at Peek Around the Corner when we gave you an update a few months ago that North Carolina and Clemson were basically holding hands up on the stage. I think the last report we had them they weren't holding hands anymore because North Carolina they can't really officially do anything, right? Because of the Board of Governors having the power. We don't have to go down that rabbit hole tonight. But North Carolina standing next to Clemson, we have reported to you from Peek Around the Corner months ago that it was really North Carolina and Clemson were more relationship together. They were more aligned than either university was with Florida State. Now, when we said that, people said, what are you talking about? Clemson and Florida State, those are the two schools that are suing. But our information was different. It was actually North Carolina and Clemson that were more intertwined on this. Not that the North Carolina leadership can do anything about it. But their interest is more, we believe, is more intertwined. One can help the other out. And if you notice, and this is not the new information, I'm just going back somewhat so you guys, because there's new people joining us all the time. And if you notice, so we reported that months ago. We reported that before Clemson officially sued March 19th. And if you notice, the only time anybody at leadership of UNC Chapel Hill who can't make a decision on conference affiliation or on litigation or on settlement, but the only time a leader at UNC Chapel Hill said anything in public so far is right after Clemson sued. And the chair of the Board of Trustees basically mimicked everything Clemson said. And said Clemson is right. They should be able to talk to other conferences. They should be able to challenge this without getting sued. It was Clemson that North Carolina was buttressing, not Florida State. Now, obviously, we had information before that happened because we had them holding hands on the stage before all that happened. And they are holding hands. Well, they're not holding hands anymore, but they're giving each other hand signals. We truly, truly believe that there is coordination, communication, coordination going on between those two universities. And I really think it's going to end up being those two schools are going to go to the same conference. There is we're going to say it, we think there's a partnership going on. Even though UNC Chapel Hill can't make any decisions on their own. So we get that. Believe it. We know that. We've reported on that over and over again. We've all talked about it. But that ain't the big news. Although we've gotten more and more, it's there. You don't have to believe me. I am going to, that's not the big news for tonight. But we're going to start there. When this happens on Monday and Tuesday, this meetings, whatever, and any public statement, anything I hear behind the curtain, Clemson and North Carolina, their messaging, if either one of them talks about what's going on, Clemson probably won't. North Carolina probably won't. But if they do, behind the scenes, in front of the camera, interviews, I think you're going to see an alignment. Remember, Clemson didn't do everything that Florida State did in their suit. And North Carolina Board of Trustees, the chairman, only commented on what Clemson did. Now, but the big hand signals. The big hand signals that is going on in the Holy Smokes Theater on the stage because PATC Holy Smokes Theater, Jerry saw it and is reporting it to you all. There's hand signals be going on Florida State and Miami. I know. I'm in trouble now. I get it. Great. Florida State can't stand Miami. Miami can't stand Florida. Miami voted to sue Florida State, voted to sue Clemson. Fans don't like each other. Nothing going on between those universities. Except there is. Except there is. And it started with the Magnificent Seven and those subgroups, those subgroup meetings. When that Magnificent Seven was created, those 7 schools, and again, logically, it had to be those 7. If there was going to be a Magnificent Seven, it had to be those 7 schools. It has to be Virginia Tech and Virginia, both public university. If one was going to be in those meetings, boy, the other one was going to be there. If North Carolina was going to be there, North Carolina State was going to be there. If Florida State was going to be there, Miami was going to be there. Just to protect all of them, so they weren't going to chop off any one of those. And then, of course, Clemson was going to be there. But Florida State, Miami subgroup, and there is a deeper connection there than any Miami Hurricane fan, any Seminole fan wants to admit. And I get it. Greg Pflugar, you don't know what you're talking about. Those two were in their subgroup together. They're not holding hands. Miami is on the stage. Miami is serious. See all the money they're spending right now? Miami is in a completely different spot than Florida State. Completely different spot. Being a private institution. Duke is in a completely different spot than North Carolina State and North Carolina. North Carolina State is in a better position than Duke because of the politics of North Carolina. Miami is in a much better position than Virginia, than Virginia Tech and a whole lot of other schools. Florida State and Miami. And I'm going to say this, and it's really going to get people upset, but the money purchase there is a group of people that are closer than what you would expect. Now, here's the other thing I'm looking for. And this gets kind of delicate. I'm just saying this is going to get delicate. I don't know what's going to go on in Amelia Island. Like I told you, I don't know we're previewing it, but I don't know what's going to happen. Probably nothing. Probably nothing. I want to remind you guys of something here. I want to remind you something. This is after Clemson sued. No. I'm sorry. This is after Florida State sued, okay? Miami Athletic Director, this is from Adam Lichtenstein, Miami Herald. Miami Athletic Director Dan Radakovich, this was December 28th, 2023, said Miami is an interested observer with Florida State taking actions toward leaving the ACC. But right now, they are proud members of the ACC. Miami's not in the position, but they are interested observer, and they are an interested observer with Florida State taking actions against, they did not come out and say, shame on you, Florida State. They're an interested observer with Florida State taking actions toward leaving the ACC. Of course, Florida State has used Miami in their pleadings a few times, talking about how both schools have had to invest in their ACC network setup on their campuses. So I am, when it comes to what happens on Monday and Tuesday, we at Peek Around the Corner and maybe others are going to be very interested to see how Dan Radakovich how he answers questions coming out on Monday and Tuesday. Look, we know Florida State's position. They have sued the ACC. We don't know. Are they going to be invited to everything tomorrow? We don't know. I mean, on Monday, on Tuesday? We don't know. Are they going to get upset and walk out? Probably not. But we'll keep an eye on it. We know the situation with Clemson. Are they going to play nice with everybody? Probably. Are they going to be told not to come into some meetings? We shall see. We know North Carolina ain't going to do nothing. North Carolina, they're so handcuffed, they're not going to do anything. North Carolina State's going to smile. Virginia's going to smile. They're not going to do there's no drama going to be but Miami. Because there's more there than what is being reported. There is more there than what's being reported. Miami's not going to go to the courts. Miami's not going to go to the courts. But is there some hand signals going on? In other words, is Florida State finding, allegedly, is Florida State finding out some communication that's going on in ACC through other means? Is there a little bad cop, good cop going on? Allegedly? And I'm going to leave it at that until Monday or Tuesday. We're going to open up the phone lines. You can talk anything you want in college football. Let's get it going. First of all, I got to open up the phone lines. Holy cow. I am not organized. There we go. 763 260-1333, 763-260-1333. Let me know what you think about the G5 Top 5 PATC Chalk Talk. Let me know about what you're going to think is going to happen at Amelia Island. Is anything going to happen? Let me know. Give me a phone call, 763-260-1333. What do you think Stanford and SMU will be thinking about at these ACC meetings? I didn't even...
Call from
BJ.
BJ, the floor is yours.
Hey, what's up, Greg?
Doing great. How are you doing Saturday night here?
Pretty good. Thanks for having me on once again.
You got it.
There's so much to talk about. I'm going to limit it to 3 quick things.
Got it.
And it won't be about Florida State, right? For one, your G5 top 5. I'm usually in agreement with you in most things. Your top 5 was way off.
All right, man. Let it rip.
No, for one, Liberty, right? You know, for those who don't know, they are in Conference USA. Little tidbit, my first job in college athletics after I graduated high school was in Conference USA, back when they had Houston, 2007, 2008. So, but with that being said, those teams have moved on, and the current CUSA is literally littered with FCS teams and rejects, teams that weren't invited to the Sun Belt or any other major conference, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the strength of schedule is just horrible. UTEP, Sam Houston, I think they have Kennesaw State, FIU, and when it comes to this year's schedule, Liberty, and I try not to be hyperbolic when I say this, it is probably the worst schedule I've ever seen. They play 2 FCS teams. They open up at Campbell. They play UMass, who historically is the worst team in Division I FBS, football. However, they do play 2 legitimate teams in East Carolina and App State. I think it's at App State. So I'm not worried about them going undefeated. East Carolina, App State will give them at least 2 losses. But outside of that, the schedule's horrible, and I can't reward teams for playing crappy schedules, right? So that's 1. 2, Memphis and South Florida, by far, have the 2 most dynamic, explosive offenses. And when you look at G5 ball, the defenses are pretty much non-existent outside of a few teams. Boise typically has a stout defense. And so when I look to grade G5 teams, offensive firepower is weighted a little bit more in G5 than Power 4. I think last year Liberty had an amazing offensive team. They lost some of those players, but the reason why I think they went undefeated, their offense was amazing, right? So I think UCF, South Florida should be 1 and 2, and Boise is 3. And if it wasn't for the coaching change, even though Boise does a great job of staying in-house, they got an in-house pick, and they played better under the interim coach than they did the head coach. So they played more inspired. Hopefully that translates to this year. But I like Boise. You can never count Boise out. They're always going to be up there. So my top 3 is those 3 teams, definitely not Liberty. So hopefully that corrects your top 5.
Well, first of all, Liberty, if the playoffs were last year, Liberty would have been the top-rated G5 champion.
Agreed.
So
they shouldn't have, but
yeah,
I agree with you.
But see, I'm going by what I think is going to happen, and I think Liberty's going to go 13-0, and I think they're going to be there again. And they got Caden Salter back. They're great quarterback. So
he's amazing.
And
he's amazing.
I think their conference is actually taking a step back this year. So we'll see. All right, go ahead. Next point.
And I'll just finish with this point. Going into App State is not an easy place to play.
No. Yep.
So
right.
now the second point was with your. It wasn't your list, but so I graduated from University of Colorado, but I'm originally from Florida, right? And my favorite team is Florida State. Mm-hmm. I hate Miami with a passion, right? However, I think Miami is the most underrated program of the last 5 years, and it's so funny how people just knock on Miami. Miami has 3 9-win seasons of the last 5 seasons. Not too many programs can say they have 3 9-win seasons. Does Miami make it easy to joke on them? They absolutely do. But how many teams can say we have 3 9-win seasons over the past 5 seasons? Not many. But with that being said, with the TBD at number 5, I think TVD is a solid quarterback. I think what people miss with him, when he is in a play-action pass offense, he tends to be a lot better. They change offensive coordinator. When he's in when he doesn't have to play action pass, he's a lot better. When he was with Lashley, the coach at SMU, it wasn't play action pass. It was just grip it and rip it, 5 wide, 4 wide with a receiving tight end. He was pretty good. His best season came from there. Miami changed to Dawson. Dawson is more play action, and TBD's issue is when he play action pass, he can't read defense, and he loses the picture. And like you mentioned, he overthrows. He just panics.
He overthrows a lot. So we'll see what happens.
A lot.
Yeah.
I would think, I think Wisconsin went to more of a spread offense, correct?
Yes.
With the I forgot the old UNC offensive coordinator.
Yeah.
Longo, Phil Longo.
Yeah.
So I think they're going to be spread wide. That's when he's at his best, and you can book it now. Don't be surprised if he has a 30-touchdown season and he's much improved and he goes back to the TBD his sophomore season or redshirt freshman season where he was in runnings for ACC Player of the Year. So it's easy to pick on Miami, but they're not as bad as people think they are when you compare them to other teams in Power 4. Mm-hmm. And lastly is this KU to the SEC conversation that's been had over the last couple of days. I have no idea whether it's legitimate or illegitimate. I do think it's quite funny, and I don't see it happening at all. I do think that it's probably pressure if anything, to North Carolina and their board of governors trying to use a package deal, because you don't want that slot to be lost because you're playing politics in North Carolina. I just don't see it. I could be completely wrong, and maybe you can give me some insight on it. I just don't see Kansas to the SEC happening anytime in the next 100 years.
Got it.
But that's all I have to say.
All right.
Thank you very much.
You got it. Appreciate it. Thanks for the call. BJ, brilliant call once again. Let me get to the Kansas SEC because there are some questions in the chat as well.
Call from
Rock and Rant.
Rock and Rant. Can you hold on for a moment, please?
Absolutely, Greg.
Appreciate it. I knew when I did that show, we had been working on that. We've been sitting on it for like 3 weeks. And I knew that whatever words I was going to say was going to be misconstrued all over the place. And it has. I see people saying, Greg Flugar says Kansas to SEC. It just happens. That's why I make it real clear. I repeat it over and over again. It's not imminent and it's definitely not guaranteed. But we completely 100% believe, we have reasons, else I would not have said it, that Kansas would be in play if SEC found whatever motivation to go to 20 schools. They're going to be in play. But, North Carolina State's going to be in play. And, of course, North Carolina, Clemson, and some other ACC schools. But we have reasons to believe that Kansas is going to be in play. We did not say Kansas is going to the SEC. We did not say it's going to be imminent. We did not guarantee it. And I said it over and over and over again. And the reporting on what I said over some college football, I'm not going to name them. I don't know. People have a heart. There are things that we report. I try to make it as clear as possible. Like on April 15th, we said in the next 6 weeks, it's going to be one of 2 candidates that are going to join the Conference USA. And Missouri State was one of them. And it happened. That was as clear as a bell. We reported that. We're not saying Kansas to the SEC is definitely happening. We said they're gonna be a candidate. They're gonna be in play. And if it ever gets to that point where the SEC is gonna go to 20, they're gonna get reported as a candidate. And if they don't, we're gonna take the L. But we're confident they're gonna be talked about. They're gonna be in play for all the reasons we want to. So. I've been invited on shows to talk about it. I don't know what that would do because I made it real clear on that live show. I don't know how, and then I got people commenting at me who didn't watch a lick of that show. They just heard that Greg Flugar said this, and they believe that I said Kansas to the SEC. When is it going to happen, Greg? And I'm getting all these questions. I'm like, watch the show, and we explain why. And you don't have to believe it. You can say, Greg, you're wrong. They won't even be in play. That's fine. But I see some college football YouTube channels out there completely misrepresenting what we said here at Peek Around the Corner. And it's on tape. So, anyways, Rock and Rant, Mr. Hurricane, I do appreciate your patience. The floor is yours.
Well, you know that this is why having your notification set is designed for, because as soon as I heard that bell, I had to come on, and the show was definitely one you knew you were going to call in for. So I'm definitely interested to catch up with you on all of this tonight. The thing, when the first time that I started calling in earlier this year, after lurking for a while, we talked about when it was uncertain who might have voted or didn't vote to authorize the lawsuit on FSU after the baby had already been born. I had said that, regardless of what my feelings about the administration of Miami might be, that I thought that even though I wish that they wouldn't have been potentially somebody voting for that personally, if they did, which seems like they probably did, but the one thing I was positive of is there was no way that Florida State people behind the scenes would not know what Miami was going to do, because no matter what was going to happen, the last thing that Miami would want to do, even with a potentially old school incompetent administration at one point, is risk the Miami-Florida State rivalry in the long run. And, to me, that's kind of what has come to pass. I think that there have been conversations going on. I'm actually very confident about that. Doesn't change my feelings about, I wish optically things were different, even if I could understand Miami taking a backseat from the lawsuit because of the state entity benefits that Florida State has that actually would vicariously open the door for Miami in the long run. But it is interesting to hear and see what might happen this week based on what you're hearing. I'm very confident that the Miami donor perch is ready to act when it's the right time to act and have the money to do whatever they need. So, without you prying more, I'm just curious if you just think that this is the time, or you're just speculating that the one that's most likely to speak this week might be some new comments from the most political AD in the conference who is down.
I don't know if they're going to say anything at all. You know what? They probably won't. But it's the one that I'm watching for, because it's the biggest chasm between their public face and what's going behind the curtain. So that's what I'm most interested in. I don't know. They're probably, maybe there's everybody, you know how it is. Everyone's going to be as professional as they possibly can. They're going to say a bunch of words and not say anything at all. But, of course, the thing is the Florida State Clemson thing is, okay, yeah, they're suing. They're being sued. We know all that, and it's going to be interesting. The only really news that can come out of the Florida State Clemson thing is, are they invited to everything? Are they going to show any frustration?
Right.
Okay. In the North Carolina, that's not even. They're not going to say nothing. But like a Miami, are they going to give us? Is Radic? The president of Miami is not in the position to do anything. The president is not a doer in this realm. Okay? He's not a doer. They're not in the position to do it. But then there's the other face of Miami where they're very interested, and there are connections with Florida State.
Well,
go ahead.
I saw that Justin posted this, and you've alluded to this a few times. Julio Frank is not going to be making the decision on this whatsoever, even though he is, how you describe him is 100% accurate.
Yeah.
He is just trying to get to year 100 for Miami and be there for the centennial. I don't know if his contract's even going to get renewed. He has not won over people. He basically had to get embarrassed on national TV, and then the the key donor perch and others in his administration at higher levels or board members came in to deal with bringing in Radakovich, bringing in Cristobal. He was not that guy, and I would be utterly shocked if he's the one who gets to decide all that, even though I don't disagree with your general take on him or him being a leader. On that, it's not really going to be his call. Like I say that with, 98% certainty that it's not just me making up stuff or wish casting. I just don't buy it. It's going to be the Moss brothers, who are two of the biggest donors. For those who don't know, they own Inter Miami. They are billionaires. that have massive donors experience. There's like 6 billionaires in the Miami program who donate to Miami Athletics specifically, not just the medical campus. And Frank is a figurehead on that regard. And maybe something will change because things change all the time, right? And he gets extended, but I don't foresee that. I don't foresee him being that person. I wish that Miami would do something more publicly just for optics and for trash talk reasons. And I think at some point you have to take actions, but I'm almost wondering if they'll still be quiet this week, because if you've gone quiet this long, you might as well just wait for the on-off switch and just turn it on at the moment that you have to turn it on and just go all in the next day, a la sort of the Pac-12 the night before, those who then left the next morning, Washington and Oregon were gone. Like, I wonder if it turns into more of that scenario, which is not my preferred scenario, but I just don't believe that Miami would be doing something Florida State wouldn't know about on that regard. I think it's entirely possible your backdoor communications are going on, and there is a good cop, bad cop scenarios that you're talking about are there. I know the money purchase is ready. I shared some of that with you as well, and it probably either syncs up or it doesn't shock you. It's not that you're not getting that information, but it is interesting to see how quickly this is all going to come to a head. If anything leaks out this week, I wouldn't be more surprised. I'd actually be surprised if it comes from Miami. I think it might just be more coming out of the fear portion of the conference, who start speculating or rumor mongering and starting to tell each other about how they're going to be fine and all these other things. I think there's going to be a lot of just pure rumors coming out of all the media being locked in a hotel on an island with this conference that is already under duress a year after the Magnificent Seven. I would love for something to leak from Miami. I'd love for there to be a Dan Radakovich comment that contradicts not just the quote that goes further than the quote that you shared, but also sort of contradicts his even more effusive ACC praise. I don't know, was it a month ago on TV? Just because I'm tired of hearing and I'm tired of having to deal with that troll stuff. But I think it's more likely nothing comes from Miami. I think it's more an on-off switch moment while in the back of everything. Your show is Cloak and Dagger. I don't know why people are surprised that Cloak and Dagger is going on here. Florida State's going bull in a china shop, and that's probably the right thing for them to do, and it's probably the right thing for Miami to go Cloak and Dagger, even if I personally hate it.
Yeah, look, imagine when that Magnificent Seven, when those subgroups were starting to form, are people gonna I can't go down that road.
Well, here's the question maybe you can go down, and it could be just your opinion of, one of the other hot conversations now that you're talking about the communications and hand signals going on is, does this make you think more or less or still not sure of who, quote unquote, was the leak about the Magnificent Seven now that we're a year anniversary coming up, speculation of who leaked it out when things kind of collapsed and who was
I don't know who leaked it out, and I don't believe I ever gave like a speculate. I don't know who did it.
I don't think you ever have. I'm just wondering if if you think it, like, where you currently sit, that you have a better view of where that likely came or didn't come or anything along those lines.
Yeah, I have not. No one's ever said anything to me about who. It's never come across my desk on that. No speculation, nothing serious. And and no one would probably tell me that because like, I don't, maybe Brett McMurphy, Ross Dellinger knows that, right? Because they got the information. But no, I don't know.
The thing that could be the most interesting really is the three new schools, but in particular Stanford. I would think that someone's going to ask Stanford about them being back on the rumor mill again this last week or two, whether those people are or clickbait or fact-based or a combination of both. So it'll be interesting to see how they answer that question if they're still trying to find other possible options, now that the Big Ten rumor at least came up again, regardless of whether it has merit behind it or not. I'd be curious to see how those schools are responding to the chaos of the conference that they just joined in, if anything comes out of those conversations in the media.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway.
All right, sir.
Glad you came on.
You got it.
To hear. We'll see what happens this week.
You got it. Appreciate it, Rock and Rant. Mr. Hurricane, thank you very much. I'm Mighty Finn. This is a college football YouTube channel. People do say what they want to say. I don't know. You don't seem to be very happy here. You never seem to be happy when you're in the chat. This show is not for everybody. So if you're getting frustrated that people are talking college football and speculating, if you don't like the information, or if you don't think it's real, whatever, you don't have to be here. Every time you're in the chat, you're unhappy. You're just really unhappy. This place is where we love college football. We talk college football. You don't have to be here. Just to let you know. Just to let you know. You do not have to be here. Okay. Phone number 763-260-1333. The phone line is open. If you're new to the channel, or if you haven't done it yet, please subscribe. Hit the notification. Open up your notifications because we can come on live at any time. Anytime or almost every time there's breaking news, we're going to be coming live.
Call from
Lewis.
Lewis, how you doing, sir? The floor is yours.
A little calmed down from the other night.
You
But
bet.
a question.
Yeah.
A question, Greg.
Yeah.
Let's say that the 40 schools, over the SEC, the Big Ten, they break away, or they're basically told to break away. Basically, they're on their own for the 40 sports, and then everybody else in the NCAA is going to do their own thing. Is that sustainable? I'm assuming it is, but it would lead to a faction. But is that going to generate the ratings and the interest if you only have 40 schools and then you have another 80 or 90 playing in something else? I mean, the 40 schools are going to get more ratings, but wouldn't that fracture weaken them to some degree as opposed to the schools all taking less and getting and still playing with them? I mean, is that a viable product, 40 schools?
Well, I'm not a big believer in that, right? I said over and over again, there's not going to be a breakaway in 2026. It's possible 4, 5, 6, more like 6, 7, 8 years from now. Is it possible? Yeah, it's possible. I mean, it's possible that the Big Ten fractures and the SEC fractures. And there's a 20-team Super League with the top of the SEC and the top of the Big Ten. All that is possible. I don't think it's likely. And I don't think it's likely that there's a 40-team breakaway. I just don't think it's I don't think it's likely.
No, but I think if we live in a world where we're going to have another 30, 40 teams wanting to be in the top 40, because we've never had this kind of a golf that's being created.
Sure.
We never had it before. I mean,
yes.
At what point does it become, okay, you get your money, you go play amongst yourselves, and we'll play amongst ourselves. We'll just do two separate things. There are more people, just as many people that follow the 80 schools as follow the 40. It just split.
Yeah.
And I think that's the only card the lower 80 really have to do this, because this is ridiculous what people were doing with the ACC. I mean, we know it's going to happen, but with the money in the CFP, this might have worked this time, but it's likely we're going to have the top two conferences are going to get all the bids because they're going to have the best strength of schedule, and on the field, it'll be difficult for anyone else to win. That leads to another question.
Yeah.
My second and final question today. That is, for the Group of 5 team, you talked a lot about the Group of 5 tonight.
Yeah.
That makes it to the playoffs, as well as the other teams that make it and they lose in the first round. My understanding, they do not go to a bowl. This playoff game is their bowl, correct?
Yeah.
They don't get to go to a bowl. Now, these home games for teams 5 through 8.
Yeah.
They host teams 9 through 12. The teams 9 through 12 only get 3,000 or 4,000 tickets to the games. That basically all the season ticket holders for the home team go, and then whatever allotment goes to the visitors week to week in the regular season.
I would guess, yes. Yep.
So basically, yeah, so the Group of 5, great, we're in the playoffs, but their reward is going somewhere where they only get 3,000 tickets, probably in the worst seats, depending on what conference it is, because the Big 12 sticks all the visitors up in the high seats in the Big 10. Mm-hmm. The SEC seems to have some rules where they allow some fans from the visiting team, and that's all they get. And it might not be to a great destination. That's not really a prize, especially if after 7 years the Group of 5 team, or even for that matter the ACC and the Big 12 teams, lose every time in that. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. And we just never have had this before. The SEC and the Big 10 have never been on this kind of a pedestal. And what we see is a lot of discontent, a lot of frustration.
Yeah.
And at some point, people need to figure out how to make the best with the hand that they're dealt, make the most money, still be competitive. Yeah. I'm not saying they should split. I'm saying that the lower schools have to find points to create leverage, to level the playing field a little bit. But they're just going to get run over. And if they get run over, it will be a weaker product if only a few dominate. So those are my thoughts. Great show. Have a great evening.
I appreciate it, Lewis. Thank you so much. Look, in 2030, could we have a breakaway? Yes. Could the SEC and the Big 10 go to 24 teams each and just break away? Yes. All that is possible. All that is possible. My question is, like the G5, if they have their own tournament, if they just break away and say, you know what, forget it, we'll have our own tournament, how much revenue are they going to create? Are they going to create enough revenue where each G5 school is going to pocket $1.8 million for their athletic departments? My question is the G5 schools, are they more worried about the gulf of difference between what Tulane is getting versus what USC is getting? Or is Tulane more interested in making as much money as possible for the athletic department? Like, let's say the G5 did their own playoffs and they got certain bids on it. And it comes back that each G5 team is going to make $500,000 in a G5 only playoffs. Is Tulane, would they rather take the $500,000 and play in the G5 playoffs, or take $1.8 million and have a chance to be that one G5 team to go to a, I don't know what the answer is. Because I have a hard time believing the G5 programs are going to make as much money if they separate. But maybe that's not... Maybe they'd rather compete and try to win a championship among themselves and take less money. But then, you got bills you got to pay. Right? You got a whole lot of different bills to pay in your athletic department. So I don't know. Or would they make as much money in a G5 only tournament? Playoffs. I have a hard time thinking they will, but I don't know. I think if they would, there's no question in my mind that the G5 commissioners have asked for valuations on a 16-team G5 playoffs. There's no question they've done that. And I think the answer they've gotten back hasn't been all that good. Else, I think they would have broken away by now.
Call from
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't get the name.
JD.
JD, the floor is yours. How you doing?
Fine, sir. How about yourself?
Doing good, good, good.
You know I'm a diehard Noel, and I'm about to sound like, shockingly, a Miami apologist, okay? But I don't fault Miami at all the way they've played this. They really didn't have the ability to stick their neck out. At least, I'm not certain that they were getting the support. I'm not certain that they had invested all the efforts into getting out of the conference that FSU has. So the fact that Miami hasn't done more, I mean, I understand why they couldn't or they can't. Now, do I believe that they're prepared to write the check when the opening happens? Yeah, I absolutely believe that. I absolutely believe that. People forget, a lot of people talk about FSU and the way they approached the exit. FSU had to go out noisy. They had to create all this havoc because the ACC, if it had been kind of a gentlemanly process in the beginning, they might still be trying to hold on to FSU. FSU had to make it clear. FSU had to convince the ACC that a divorce was necessary. There's no interest now, even from members of the ACC, to repair the relationship with FSU. And then now Clemson joins in. Clemson didn't have to be as noisy. You know, there was a reason things were done a certain way. And so now where we are, again, I don't have any inside information on Miami at all. I get some information from time to time on other universities, but little tidbits, and sometimes I don't even know what to make of it. But as far as Miami, they're definitely not my favorite, but at the same time, I don't want the rivalry to go away. So for the rivalry to not go away, I guess it would be better that we're in the same conference. And yeah, you also have to remember a couple of things. Coming out, if you hadn't have already heard FSU speak out against the ACC or the revenue structure, coming out of spring meetings last year, Michael Alford was making very positive statements about the ACC. You know that they had just been in the conference room previously. There's probably a lot of contentious conversations going on. And then he walks out and makes extremely positive comments to the press about the ACC and so on. And then 6-7 months later, we're suing them. So I don't know what you're going to get this weekend, or this week. Probably not a lot, but it does set the stage. I mean, I think in the winter meetings, all we really got from that was it was just very, very cold. The mood around the meetings and everything else was contentious at times. There were definitely cliques. You know, you'd hear about who was going to lunch with each other, or you would just get little tidbits, but there wasn't a lot of information. Now, if you don't get a lot this week, or if the reporters that are there, pretty much report it to be as business as usual, not a lot of newsworthy comments or off the record comments, I'm wondering if settlement talks might be a little farther down the road than we think. I just don't know. But it's fascinating. I'm going to be refreshing my Twitter about every 15 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
I know that. I'm going to be looking for little tidbits. I know FSU media will be there. I know other universities in the Carolinas will be media from the Carolinas, and I'm hoping some national reporters will be there. But I'd like to hear something, but do I expect to hear anything? Probably not. But I don't know. But what's your take?
If I had to put my chips in the middle of the table, I would assume we don't hear anything. But if we do hear something interesting, I think it's going to come from, like I said, I'm most interested to hear what I'm most interested to hear what Miami says.
Sure.
For what I've heard, look, Clemson's in the courts. They're not going to say anything. They don't want anything to be Florida State. They're not going to say anything. North Carolina's not going to say anything. So if someone's going to say something of interest, I think it's going to be Miami. When they started, okay, now we're speculating here, okay? Everybody relax. We're just speculating. JD, we're pretending here, okay? You're Florida State. You are Peter Collins.
I would love that bank account.
Okay, you know what? You're Alford. You're the athletic director, Alford. Let's go in that direction.
Sure.
Alford, how did this Magnificent Seven start? Who did you first talk to about a possibility of breaking off from the ACC? How did this even start, and who was in your subgroup? Who did you most talk to of all the AC of the Magnificent Seven? What's your answer, Alfred?
I would have, off the record, my first conversation would have been with Clemson.
Okay.
Obviously, I'm not talking to a reporter, but if you're asking me who Michael's Alford's first conversation would have been with, it would have been with Clemson, because that's where the value would have been.
Okay.
When you have negotiating power, it was with Clemson. Now,
okay. Let me ask you the next question, Michael Alford. PATC's Michael Alford, not the real Michael Alford. So nobody sue me. PATC, Michael. Let me ask you the next question. When did Michael Alford, when did Miami get involved in the Magnificent Seven? And did you regularly have, when you had your subgroup talks, was Miami in your talks consistently? When you had your little meetings of a couple, 2, 3, 4 schools?
Miami was probably the third or fourth team, maybe the second team, but second or third team. Okay. You would have consulted.
Yeah. I think so too. And I think a lot of people think that, JD. Just to give you a little, we're just talking here, right? We're just talking.
Sure. Mm-hmm. Well, I could tell you how all this played out, and I don't know where. This is JD talking. I don't. I would tell you how the realignment for the ACC started. Oh, I feel very confident how that started, who the first initial contacts were. You might shoot some of it down, but or you might not. But it's I know, have a general feel on how it started, and then the players involved. I was receiving better information before the lawsuit started than I do now. Now I just get most of what everybody else does. Get little tidbits from time to time from some people that are not necessarily in the news or on message boards or things like that. But there was some really good background information that little old me would get, just because I knew to keep my mouth shut, but they knew I was invested with the process and fascinated behind it. Trust me, you can tell I get in the weeds now. I really do. Sometimes I get fixed on an issue, and it's just sitting there simmering in my mind, and I have a hard time letting it go till it's like solving a murder mystery. Mm-hmm. But College Realignment is my own true crime podcast series, is what it is. But yes, sir. No, I don't think Miami has ever been out of the loop. Now,
I think that's a good way of saying it, JD. I don't think Miami's ever been out of the loop. I wish I would have said that. That's a good way of saying it.
Well, do I believe that they're chummy? No. There's aspects, and Rock and Rant may not like this, but there's aspects about some of the things that Mario does that are just, even for SEC recruiting, are just, you don't do. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's just underhanded isn't even the right word. But go ahead.
Well, let me just. I saw. I'm sorry I interrupted. I saw Joe Z say, "Realignment makes strange bedfellows. Once USC was in, we called UCLA and told them what time of day it was." A couple things. It didn't happen that way. UCLA and USC both called the Big Ten separately from each other. We're having talks with the Big Ten separately from each other, and neither one of them knew that the other was having talks with the Big Ten. It was completely different than Oklahoma and Texas calling the SEC together. But I do want to say this. The Big Ten, when USC called, UCLA called, and the word got around the money perch. That's why we got the story. Fox wanted to lock up the city of Los Angeles. USC, UCLA rivals. And then later on, we don't have to go through the whole story again, how it happened. But Washington and Oregon, rivals, Pacific Northwest region. Okay? And now you look at the Big Ten wanting to go to the Southeast somewhere. We've been down that road a bunch of times. We've said this is the Big Ten's priority. You look what the Big Ten has done here. UCLA, USC, Los Angeles. 2 schools in the Pacific Northwest. Would the Big Ten love for Notre Dame to say, yeah, we're in? Well, sure, but doesn't look like that's happening. North Carolina, Virginia. North Carolina, SEC's wagons have circled around North Carolina. So what are the 2 schools? Like some people say, great, the Big Ten ain't going to be interested in a Tallahassee and Miami market together. Well, that's how the Big Ten's been doing it. You can see the blend of Tallahassee and Miami is quite similar to the blend of Seattle and then the brand of Oregon. Right? That's lots. That's and then UCLA and USC locking up. It does fit the operandi of what the Big Ten's been doing. Now, can the Big Ten get it done? Or would there be a higher target become available for the Big Ten so it isn't Florida State, Miami combo? But I'm just saying that combination is kind of what the modus of operandi been going on there at Big Ten, with Fox Sports' interest at the front of it being approved by the Big Ten presidents. Go ahead, JD. Sorry to interrupt you there.
No, and I apologize. In our previous conversation, sometimes I interrupt you way too much, and I don't mean to do that. So I'm apologizing now because I realized on our last phone call I was interrupting you constantly, and I wasn't meaning to.
No,
but
you go right ahead.
What if? Let me ask you one question here real quick, and it ties into what we're talking about. What if the ACC convinces UNC to stay? What does that do to everything? What if they do unequal revenue sharing? What if the state of North Carolina chips in extra money? I don't know how all that works.
Well, okay. I mean, that is plausible if you throw in the other part of the story where the ACC is able to convince North Carolina State because of unequal revenue sharing. Plus, they would have to pay a big old Carolina tax to North Carolina State anyways, right? So
Sure.
it makes it almost where North Carolina is hamstrung, where basically they stay because they really don't have a choice because they're so hamstrung. What would happen if that happened? Great question. Then there's a possibility of only, 3 schools possibly leaving. Florida State's gone. Clemson is gone.
Yes, sir.
And I think North Carolina is basically gone, except for the scenario that we just said. And I think there's going to be a 4th school, and I think it's going to be Miami. And then there's a potentiality of what the SEC does after that. Do they go, do they have to bring in a North Carolina State and then a Virginia? But anyways, what happens if North Carolina decides they won't, the combination of thereof, that they don't leave the ACC? Then I still think Florida State and Clemson are gone.
Well, I believe those 2 are gone.
Yeah.
What my question is does if UNC staying, does that dam up the river now where nobody else gets out, or maybe people don't want to get out? We go back to the ESPN. We go back to the ESPN contract.
I think it jams it up.
Sorry. Yeah, we go back to the ESPN contract, and there again. I don't believe they renew per se. They just renegotiate. That's my opinion. We don't have to redebate that whole thing. But I'm just curious where Clemson goes in that scenario. I don't believe they go to the SEC by themselves. Would the Big Ten, even though they don't plan to go past 20, if they had FSU and Clemson available, even if Clemson wasn't their first choice, do they go ahead and add Clemson? Or if Miami all of a sudden just decides to stroke the check and those 3 get out, and do they all go to the Big Ten? I have a hard time believing, and I know Clemson's first choice would be the SEC. Mm-hmm. I just have a hard time believing the Big Ten would pass Clemson up. I don't know. If North Carolina was available, and I absolutely see North Carolina and Clemson going to the SEC. I get it. I see it. Mm-hmm. But if Clemson was there by themselves, not necessarily having a definitive home SEC or Big Ten, I just can't see how the Big Ten wouldn't add them, even even though some of the university presidents, or maybe even most of them, wouldn't necessarily be on board, it's just too much of a value add. That's a big brand that's available, and maybe there's some academic. And again, I'm speaking this is out of my. I'm not saying realm of expertise, but I don't know Big Ten politics and how it works, or the administrative, actions of adding members and how the presidents would view things, or whether or not they had certain benchmarks that Clemson had to invest in over a period of time, and you go ahead and bring them in with that being clearly established. I'm getting way off on that, but I don't know. I'd like to keep Clemson as a rival.
Yeah.
As Florida State, I'd love to have more Southeastern rivals.
Yeah.
And I hate to say it. Well, I don't mean to hate to say this. I'd rather have Clemson go with FSU than I would Miami, but I do think Miami coming too is important to keep that rivalry together, even though I can't stand Miami. But anyway, I've been on a long time, but just throwing a few things out there for consideration. And
appreciate it.
I always appreciate you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, JB. Great call. We're just going to go through once again G5 top 5 real quick. PATC's top 5 of the G5 in the spring here. Honorable mention, Appalachian State, UTSA losing their Harris, their great quarterback. Miami, Ohio, Toledo going to battle it out in the MAC conference. Fresno State, the Bulldogs are a threat in the Mountain West. This is our top 5. University of South Florida, the Bulls, 7-6 last year, 1-11 in 2022. The quarterback's returning, Brian Brown. The great wide receivers returning. And their running back, their starting running back, Naquan Wright, is returning. USF number 5, PATC G5 top 5. Tulane number 4. New head coach John Summerall comes in after the loss. Head coach Willie Frisk, he went on to Houston. They lost quarterback Michael Pratt. So why do I have Tulane number 4? Because Ty Thompson's coming on in, the transfer from Oregon, and they are high on Ty Thompson. The Tulane Green Wave are high on Ty Thompson and their defense. They got 2 great linebackers coming back next year. Tulane, I could not have them not be in the top 5. Number 3, Boise State. Head coach Spencer Danielson making some news a little bit on NIL. Doesn't want to give NIL to his freshmen, at least when they come in. After they produce, NIL opportunities open up for them. Spencer Danielson made a little bit of news this past week on that. Quarterback Malachi Nelson, 5-star USC, hasn't played much. The wild card when it comes to the Boise State Broncos. We shall see. The great running back Ashton Jennings. This guy ran all over the place, over 1,300 yards, 6.1 average, 19 total touchdowns. I've got Memphis number 2. Seth Hennigan is going to be the player to watch in the AAC. 68% completion percentage, 32 passing touchdowns. He's going to be a 4th-year starter this year. Memphis went 10-3 last year. Ryan Silverfield, he's been there for 4 years. They're peaking. They're peaking at the right time. Year 5 for Ryan Silverfield. Memphis Tigers are a threat to win the AAC and become the G5 representative in the playoffs. And number 1, Liberty. BJ thought it was crazy. Everybody in the chat room, well, not everybody. Some always believe the fat guy from Minnesota is crazy. Liberty Flames, Caden Salter, the great quarterback, over 2,800 yards passing, 32 touchdowns, only 6 interceptions, a 176.6 quarterback rating. He ran for over 1,000 yards, 12 touchdowns. He's coming back next year. Jamie Chadwell, head coach, the great Jamie Chadwell, head coach. He's coming back next year. This schedule, they are a threat. They are an absolute threat. Liberty to go back and be the best G5, highest ranked G5 school champion. Notre Dame, number 5 versus Liberty. Notre Dame versus Liberty in South Bend. Are we going to see that matchup? We might. So, again, we're going to wrap it up here. We've been on the air for 2 hours and 20 minutes. On a Saturday night is all right for PATC. I want to thank everybody for coming on in, the donations, the great chats in the chat room, and with the phone calls. I do appreciate it very, very much. Oregon State, Washington State in the G5 now. They're quasi, yes. Yep. They're independent programs. So, but if they're the highest ranked, I believe they are qualified. If they're one of them is higher ranked than the other G5 champions, I believe they get the nod. I believe that is the rule. They're not in the Mountain West Conference, though. Not in football. Not this year. Not next year. But anyways, I do appreciate everybody for coming on in. Keep your head on a swivel. We're going to be covering Monday and Tuesday, anything big happen in Amelia Island, Florida, ACC spring meetings. If I had a bet, if I had to put my chips in the middle of the table, I would say nothing really interesting is going to be said. However, it is the ACC. We were shocked last year. I think if something important is said, it's not going to be coming from a Clemson. No. Florida State. No. I think maybe not Virginia. Not because of President Ryan. Not Virginia. Maybe North Carolina State says something maybe interesting. Maybe Virginia Tech. But most likely, I'm looking at Miami. Those 3 schools, you can kind of see maybe they say something of interest. I would rank Miami number 1, what I'm going to be looking for, and number 2, North Carolina State. Those 2 schools, we'll see what happens. And if anything happens, we're going to report on it. We're going to go live, and you all can call us at that time. Until next time, from all of us at College Football's Peek Around the Corner, to all of you, please, you all take great care of each other. Thank you so very much.